Welcome to another episode of Skeeter's Travels. If you haven't figured it out by now, I'm Skeet. For today's adventure, we're going to be driving this 21-mile bumpy dirt road. Normally, it's super dusty. This time, it's a little muddy and snowy. Either way, it's going to make for a great adventure. But we didn't drive all the way up to the Four Corners area just to get the car covered in mud and snow. We actually came up here to visit Chaco Canyon National Historic Park. This is my third time here, and it is my nephew's second time here. I brought him here when he was a little kid, but he didn't want to get out because it's cold and snowy. These great houses that we are about to visit were a meticulously planned metropolis. By the year 1050, this area would become the center of trade, culture, and administration for the Ancestral Puebloan people. Let's head in to go admire the vision and the talent of the people who once lived here 1,000 years ago. There are many different ways to explore this park. The first thing you want to do is check the weather. I did check the weather, and it wasn't supposed to snow until later tonight. Surprise, it came through last night. Park ranger told us that we might have difficulty getting out. One of the park rangers is stuck in the mud right now on the road we just came through. The first thing you want to do though is go into the visitor center, get a parks map, and talk to a park ranger. They'll give you advice on the different trails that you can do. We're not going to do the hiking because we're not equipped for this kind of weather. So instead of focusing on hiking, we're going to take the 9-mile loop that takes you to several of the different sites, including the Ungopavi Great House and Shederal Kettle. I am butchering that. I know I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, it is the second largest great house here in Chaco Culture National Historic Park. It was huge. They even built a platform like a city square that was elevated above the ground, and it's quite impressive. You don't get a real feel for it through the camera. It is really cold and unpleasant, and we were totally not prepared for this. But it is beautiful, and we're getting to see the park in a way that normally you don't get to see it. It is so cold out here, but like really cold out here. But this view of the Great Kiva against the second largest great house in this area is just mind-blowing and totally makes it worth it. To keep warm, we're going to keep moving, and we're going to head to the next great house. And if you look carefully, you might be lucky enough to see some petroglyphs. And Pueblo Bonito, the largest of all the great houses. And it is spectacular. This covers 3 acres of land. And at the time, it would have been 4 or 5 stories tall, and it would have had over 600 rooms. But don't think of it as an apartment complex, because it wasn't. It was a city center. For 300 years, this area right here was the center of the ancestral Puebloan world. That encompasses everything for the San Juan Basin, including Arizona, Colorado, Utah, and of course, New Mexico, because that's where we're at now. People would come from all of those regions for celebrations, politics, economics, trade, and astrology. It is a fantastic area to explore. The National Park Service spends a lot of effort preserving these ruins, so that way we get to enjoy them. Using imaging technology, they have mapped over 400 miles of roads. And we're not talking just little hiking trails. We're talking actual maintained trails, with some of them, especially the ones here at the great houses, having multiple lanes for traffic. They don't have cars, of course, but they did do a lot of trade. I'm not talking about just the great houses here in Chaco Canyon. I'm talking about the ones that we've already visited, like Aztec Ruins, Chimney Rock, Mesa Verde, and all of the other pueblos in the Four Corners area. They would have traded things including food, salt, shells, anything that a thriving civilization would have needed to be a thriving civilization. I did talk to one park ranger out in Chimney Rock, and he said that they believe the natives traded as far as Central America. This is the reason why we have elected not to go hiking.
My feet are sliding. That's... oh my gosh, that's bad.
Whoa. I am worried about getting out of the park today. Even though our plans for hiking have been foiled because of the snow, seeing the snow is a wonderful opportunity to ponder and reflect on how the natives would have handled the winters. I don't know what to say about this. This cave is really big, and it's really awesome, and it is just super cool to look at. This would have been a 4 or a 5-story building, and there would have been over 600 rooms in here. Interestingly enough, very few of these rooms were actually used for habitations. The majority of them were used for storage, burials, and other purposes. It was rooms like this that they would have used for storage to get through these long, cold winters, kind of like what we're experiencing today. Food storage is not enough to get you through the winter. How do you stay warm? Well, obviously, there's fires. But another thing they did was they domesticated the turkey. They would use the turkey not as food, but as a pet. And then using fibers from the yucca plant, they would weave the feathers together to make these blankets that would keep them nice and toasty throughout the winter. And this is the Pueblo de Arroyo, the last great house that we will be stopping at this park. It is a lot smaller than the other one we visited, but it is no less spectacular. After about 300 years, for purposes unknown, people started to vacate the area. It could have been because of drought, or it could have been because of overutilization of resources here. Either way, people started to leave, and they went to places like Aztec Ruins National Park, where we were at yesterday, and eventually a lot of the Ancestral Puebloans made their way down into Mexico. There are also a lot who stayed behind, not necessarily in these ruins, but in other areas, and their descendants are still alive today. Because of the weather, I was just dwelling on how much of a wasted trip this was, but it ended up being really cool to see all of this in the snow. I am disappointed I didn't get to do the hikes. That's okay though. Being out here with the snow just gave me a completely different perspective than I've had before, and the park's been really quiet and empty, which is unusual. So 10 out of 10, great trip. Thank you for exploring these ruins with me and learning more about the Ancestral Puebloans. If you're out in this area, even if you're not, find a way to get out here and explore what life would have been like 1,000 years ago for the people who lived here. Again, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next adventure. I just talked to some people who just drove in the same exact car I have, and they said the roads were bad, but the car should make it, so I'm a little relieved on that. Update on us attempting to leave the park. The roads are hell. Do not attempt this if the roads are wet at all. We pretty much drove into a ditch, and I am super impressed with the Honda with its ability to get us out. But we are all over the road. It is horrible. Look at all of this mud on the tires. We're not getting any traction at all. It is really bad. Do not attempt this when it's raining.